Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted. With me are my esteemed colleagues,
Dave.
Nate.
and today we're going to talk terrible terrain. I'm talking about landscape influenced by orcs and goblinoids because they're pretty much the same.
I want to go with Monstrous Humanoids, and thank you, Moon Cleric, for the suggestion. And so they asked about hobgoblins, goblins, and orcs specifically, but I'm just going to lump that all together with basically Monstrous Humanoids, because most of them kind of interact the same with the landscape,
Absolutely.
especially orcs and the goblinoids.
Right.
And, gnolls are probably the same way. Ogres, giants are more sophisticated, so
Right.
yeah, that'd be a little different. But yeah,
But giants aren't monstrous humanoids, they're giants.
that's true.
Which
That
is why
true.
they're not being talked about.
Although an ogre is a giant as well, but it would act more like a monstrous humanoid.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So
So, all right. So basically, monstrous humanoids are going to just pretty much tear apart the landscape.
that aren't sylvan creatures. So there's our disclaimer.
Okay.
Aren't they just fey?
So orcs, goblins, goblinoids, hobgoblins.
So they're going to tear
bugbears.
apart the landscape. They're going to basically extract everything that they feel that they could possibly use, and move on to pillaging another area.
They're like locusts. They're going to take what's easy to do to get at first. Then maybe then they start bringing in the slaves if they don't have them already to get at the stuff that's more difficult. A lot of times they're more primitive. They're not as advanced when it comes to civilization. So yeah, they kind of move on to new hunting. They hunt an area until there's nothing left to hunt. There's no more places to raid or pillage, and they kind of move on to the next.
They're not going to set up shop and open up mines looking for jewels, precious metals, and the whole nine. But they will, whatever's kind of on the surface, they will use and abuse.
Well, that's true. Although previous editions did talk about orcs being accomplished smiths. So it depends too. Like there's definitely room for variance, but I even think those. I still see them being the same way where they're going to take from the land until there's nothing left to take. But this could be several years. So let's think about what that would look like over the course of the 5 years it takes them to totally rape the land and totally leave it, a wasteland.
Well, right at onset, the herds in the area are going to have diminished capacity because they're going to overhunt. Anything that's small and burnable is going to be quickly removed so that they can use their fires, because a lot of them keep a fire going all the time. And anything of immediate value.
And they're going to clear the land as fast and easily as they can. So yeah, they're totally going to slash and burn the shit out of that thing. They're going to deforest and cut the trees. They're not going to care about if it's going to come back or not. They just know they need to build their lodges now.
Right. So and then of course whatever's the closest village is going to be attacked.
Yeah, and they'd probably stay in an area until it's hunted out. They can't. They have to range too far for not only game but also for victims.
Mm-hmm.
Really, like when I think of orcs and goblins, if they've been in an area for a while, and it must have started really verdant beforehand. I think of Mordor, from Lord of the Rings. Smoke is billowing out. Maybe there's ash everywhere. I don't even know how it got there.
Well, from all those fresh green trees they were burning.
Yeah. So the landscape is going to become very desolate.
Absolutely.
Now that you could have other variants. You could have certain monstrous races that actually live with the land better or more intelligent,
Like
or
more
whatever.
shamanic orcs, like if they have some kind of religious leaders that are leading them more towards like some kind of life cycle with the world around them, rather than
And you can still have
chop and burn.
You can still have these monstrous humanoids in your world be living off the land and still be evil. There's nothing to stop them from saying, I have no problem killing people. I just am not going to abuse the landscape that's where these people are.
There's self-sustaining concepts that go with that as well, but so I guess there's like different variants you could do. you could definitely do the total. We're gonna turn this land into like habitable. But when we leave, that level of malevolence and evil and just not caring,
Mm-hmm.
Or you could go the other route where it's like, yeah, we're cool with everything around us. We just don't like people and we eat them and stuff.
Yeah, no problem with killing a group of villagers if you feel like it, but you still have to go home, and who wants to sleep on crap? Kind of like that idea, that mentality. So kind of like a little bit elevated above, just semi-intelligent monsters.
Yeah, or perhaps you have the evil necromancer that is building his army, and he's using monstrous humanoids, and maybe like they would respect the land in a sense, but he doesn't give a crap. He wants to burn the world, and this is his army to do it. So he doesn't let them leave. They're forced to stay in one area, and totally, and it's not only is he being despoiled from all these monstrous humanoids running around doing their thing, but from whatever the necromancer is doing too. It could be like tainting the land, almost like a Dark Sun style.
Yeah, and if you have a roving band of several hundred orcs and goblins and hobgoblins, that's going to just mess up the land just because. I mean, trampling farmland and cutting down trees for firewood just for the camps every night. You're going to lead a path of just messed
Well, that's
up
the
place.
other thing. There's like the smaller groups in themselves aren't really a problem. Like the wilderness will kind of recover. It's when you get a powerful warlord or force that unites them together, and now all of a sudden, there's so many more mouths to feed, so much more that has to be sustained from the land around it, and that's when the impact is really going to start to get felt.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Armies over hunting, then there's no food to hunt, so they start attacking farms, and it can be a really big hassle to get rid of our orc army.
So there's like a couple ways of looking at this, right? So we got, all right, a big bad summons them all together. Depending on how long they're there, that's, an encamped army is going to be devastating.
Oh, absolutely.
And it doesn't actually matter, what the race is at that point.
Aristocratic humans, and
Right.
a camped army's going to
Unless they're elves, that place is so boned. Yeah, because elf pea probably makes trees grow more or something. I don't know.
it's straight fertilizer.
Yeah.
Better than bone meal.
But then you have or you have the small tribal organizations where maybe it's only 15 to 30 members. Several families is probably not going to impact land that much. One of the other things,
not right at first.
yeah,
And it'll be harder to find a small tribe. It'll be harder to. They might even be using some methods of. I feel like hobgoblins and goblins would be better at hiding themselves somewhere.
Absolutely.
Strategic cut down trees for the opening or some kind of.
Well, here's the thing. All right, so I think bugbears and goblins would probably live with nature a little bit better, in the sense that one, because they're lazier, so they're less inclined to
The hobgoblins
change
are
things.
militaristic.
Yeah, they're going to change. They're going to change the area around them a lot.
That's true.
And camp in. I think more civilized orcs are going to kind of do the same. It's almost like with the monstrous humanoids. The more bestial, more monstrous they are, the less the impact, because they really are just hunter gatherers. And the fact that there's not as many of them, they're probably going to just follow game, so they're not going to leave as much of a disturbance behind them. But it's when you get that pseudo civilization of we're going to make this area our home and our kingdom or whatever they're calling it, and they decide they're not going to leave, then that's when they're going to deforest everything. If there's anything precious in the ground, they're going to strip it out. If there's any kind of animals, they're going to hunt them to extinction, and drive them from the area, to the point where they are going to have to start capturing livestock and keeping livestock. The other problem is they're not agriculturally. These are not races that are out there planting and harvesting. If they are, they have slaves that do it for them. They're not doing it.
Or they might be trying to take your harvest.
Well, exactly. And even if they have slaves doing it, chances are slaves don't tend to work that well. So they're not going to be planting it very well or efficient.
And the race that's controlling them probably doesn't have the skill to know how efficient it's being done.
Well, I should
Exactly.
capture some farmers.
Yes, but
No, he's saying, but the farmers aren't going to want to work for the people.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
the hobgoblin that's forcing them to work doesn't know when he's working, to a maximum efficiency.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, doesn't
like,
know
you
whether
could
you're
have
doing it right.
You could have planted another acre today. Like they're like, oh, what's an acre?
How's he know that them, sticking a seed in a hole and putting a rock over top of it isn't the way to do it? So I don't know. Anything stand out for you guys that you want to throw out there?
I really like the idea of for the terrain for goblins, the idea of them having little hidey holes and places that the humans can't. They kind of got that cobalt feel to them, where like they could be there one instant shooting at you or throwing rocks at you, and then they hop in a stump that actually has a little burrow that goes into some other cavern or channel for their lair. So they can start harassing you long before you even get to what their encampment would be like.
Goblins I see is, kind of somewhat pseudo-subterranean. They might have, some stuff on the surface, but whatever's up there is probably only a portion of what they have. There's probably more things
Burrows.
underground. Yeah, burrows. I mean, they're not digging into hard rock, but they're moving through, hard soil, so that they've got their numbers concealed. And things on the surface absolutely ramshackle, thrown together without a care in the world. Hobgoblins, I'm seeing, squat, sturdy structures, things that, look almost uniform to some degree. Bugbears I see as a kind of mixture, because bugbears are kind of the top of the goblinoid hierarchy, so they're going to have hobgoblins and goblins kind of in tow that are slaves or just moving along with the pack because of the superiority. Orcs I see as similar to hobgoblins in squat structures, but it's there's not going to be any uniformity. They're going to use whatever they can thrown together, and almost to the point of like ugly asymmetrical situations. That's just my take.
I see, I see, I actually put hobgoblins above bugbears. The bugbears are physically superior, but, they're intellectually inferior to a hobgoblin, and they're not, they don't have, they're not driven, and they're not as disciplined as the hobgoblin.
That's true.
Now definitely a bugbear could, find himself bullying a group of hobgoblins, or especially goblins. But I kind of see them actually of the three, being like worse off, like, because I feel like they're lazier than the goblins, because they're used to being able to push people around to do what they want, and not as disciplined as the hobgoblins. So I could definitely see them kind of lazing around, hanging out in trees, and almost like a vagabond kind of lifestyle, unless they have people to bully around to kind of get the better things from life.
Right.
I totally agree with your assessment of the goblins. I can even see them actually have taken over a halfling or gnome settlements and driven them out, and then of course taking what was nice and turning it basically into crap. The hobgoblins are going to improve upon anything they get their hands on.
I agree.
They're going to make it better. If they have bugbears and goblins to work with, they're going to get the most out of them. It may be at the end of a lash, but they're gonna make something happen, I think. Orcs to me feel like they kind of run the gambit, where I kind of feel like bugbears, hobgoblins, and goblins are kind of like pigeonholed, where orcs can be anything from the primitive shamanistic lifestyle of almost like Native Americans, up to the hobgoblin standard and anywhere in between.
So it's kind of going to depend upon what you have as their pseudo leader or warlord. However that person's going to act, and he's going to command his followers to do the same. If you've got a thug, your guys are going to be lazy, lay about thugs. But if you've got a bona fide warlord, it's going to be like hard precision military.
Yeah, or some like Grumsh inspired orc cleric or something.
Well, or even like you have the orcs in like the World of Warcraft as a good example, and also the goblins in World of Warcraft. Like there's other places you can draw inspiration from.
Absolutely.
and like I kind of like for goblin, I love the Warcraft World of Warcraft goblins. They're kind of nuts and they're alchemists and they blow stuff up. That would be a completely different environment.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, if you gave goblins a bit more intellect and made them feel a little more gnomey, I think you pretty much have.
Well, that's it.
Warcraft
You know,
goblins.
when a daddy tinker gnome and a mommy goblin come together, no, that's what you get. A World of Warcraft goblins,
Indeed.
pretty much. So, I think we rove the range on this one.
Yeah, I think so. So if you have any differences of opinion or want to share your own ideas, put them in the comments below. While you're doing that, click like, share, subscribe.
You can check us out over on nerdarchy.com.
You can also check us out on Facebook.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.
Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted. With me are my esteemed colleagues.
It's true.
Which
That
is why
true.
they're not being talked about.
Although an ogre is a giant as well, but it would act more like a monstrous humanoid.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So basically, monstrous humanoids are gonna just pretty much tear apart the landscape.
that aren't sylvan creatures. So there's our disclaimer.
Okay.
Aren't they just fae?
So orcs, goblins, goblinoids, hobgoblins.
So they're gonna tear
bugbears.
apart.
Dave.
Nate.
And today we're going to talk terrible terrain. And we're talking about landscape influenced by orcs and goblinoids. Because they're pretty much
Basically,
the same.
I want to go with monstrous humanoids, and thank you, Moon Cleric, for the suggestion. And so they asked about hobgoblins, goblins, and orcs specifically, but I'm just going to lump that all together with basically monstrous humanoids, because most of them kind of interact the same with the landscape,
Absolutely.
especially orcs and the goblinoids.
Right.
And, gnolls are probably the same way. Ogres, giants are more sophisticated, so
Right.
yeah, that'd be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
But giants aren't monstrous humanoids. They're giants.
that's
The landscape. They're going to basically extract everything that they feel that they could possibly use and, move on to pillaging another area.
they're like locusts. Yeah, they're going to take what's easy to do to get at first. Then maybe then they start bringing in the slaves if they don't have them already to get at the stuff that's more difficult. A lot of times